like AC said, thanks for everybody being here today. This is an exciting day for all the student athletes from all the sports throughout the country today. A signing date as they start to embark on one of their lifelong dreams of being a college football player or whatever, volleyball, whatever sport they're playing. So it's a start of an incredible journey for these young men, and we're really excited about our class. I think we filled all our needs. Well, let me say this first. There's a lot of work that goes into a recruiting class, and it's not a 4-week or an 8-week period. And, this recruiting started many months ago, and I thought our staff did an incredible job. They worked extremely hard and to develop relationships and to bring these young men here to campus, to Middle Tennessee. So I'm very appreciative of our staff and our coaches' wives who are involved in the recruiting part, and just there's a lot of people that touch these young men, and I'm very thankful and appreciative of their hard work. We signed 19 guys on both signing dates here. We signed 12 in December, and then 7 here today. And you guys can see it. I haven't looked at it yet there, but we signed 10 offensive players and 9 defensive players, 2 quarterbacks, 2 receivers, 6 offensive linemen. And then on the defensive side, 5 DBs, 2 linebackers, and 2 defensive guys up front, so defensive linemen. So, it's a good class. I think there's a couple things that really stand out to me in this class is the character of these young men. And when you recruit, and everybody's philosophy is different, but when we recruit guys, when I talk to guys, one of the important things to me is, will this young man eventually be a captain of your team? And those are the kind of people that you want to coach, guys that will be a captain, that will be a leader, that will do everything in his power to be the best football player, the best student, the best person he can be. So I think this class is full of those type of guys. A lot of them, not a lot, but there's a handful that are already here now, the junior college guys that we signed in December, and they're really fitting in well with our team. They're working hard, and anxious to coach them here this spring. And then the other thing is, there's a lot of size in the offensive line, and we signed 6 guys. And you guys know last year we struggled from an injury standpoint, and I think where people lose sight a little bit what happened to us in the offensive line. 2 years ago when we signed Jonathan Roth, we were expecting him to be a starter, and he would have been a starter for us this year, but he had a couple concussions, and they disqualified him. He wasn't able to play anymore. And then the next year we signed Trey Peters, and we lose him from an injury deal that, so you lose 2 offensive linemen in back-to-back classes, and then you have a couple injuries. It takes you a while to replace those guys to get your that particular position or any particular position balanced. And so we signed 6 guys, and that's probably you're not doing that very often in a normal signing period, but I felt it was critical that we get our numbers back up. In the offensive line, you see where we didn't sign a running back. So there's some areas that, we kind of took away from. I didn't feel like we needed a running back in this class with what we've got coming back. So there's a lot of size in there. There's a lot of athleticism on the defensive side. I'm really excited about the corners, really the DBs as a whole. I think there's a lot of athleticism there. Some of the guys have played more. They've played at the college level. Chris Stamps and Cordell Hudson, those guys have played. And then Kendricks Gladney is, he's played, at the junior college level. So we've got a little bit, some maturity, a little bit older, a few older guys there on that side. And, I think we really signed two really good quarterbacks. I think both of them have really good upside. There's a lot of potential there. Excited to work with those guys. So I'm excited there, and you can see we signed a couple receivers in there. Devon's here now, and we'll coach him and this spring. That'll hopefully both those guys will be able to contribute this year. We'll find out once they get here, and then the linebackers. Avery's here now, a junior college guy that's played a little bit. And then, the defensive line guys are athletic, have a good upside. Jordan was a running back as well as a defensive lineman, so he's athletic. I just think that it's a really good class. I'm trying to see here if I've not talked about anybody, on this deal. And that other linebacker, Jarek, Campbell, there here from in town at Riverdale, I think is a very talented young man. He can run. I love his attitude. I love his personality. I think he's got a chance to be a special player here as well. So overall, we've got 2 scholarships left, that we'll possibly utilize here moving forward. I'm not going to sign somebody just to sign them. If we can't find who we're looking for, we'll save and use those 2 for next year. So we'll put those in our pocket for a little bit and see, what becomes available either through the high school ranks, the junior college, or maybe a grad transfer. Somebody pops up from that standpoint. So, but overall, really pleased with our class, excited about it, and a lot of people, like I said, did a fantastic job and put a lot of work into this effort. So I'm really appreciative of them. So I'll open it up to you guys.
Coach, good, that's loud. You touched on it briefly. How many of these 19 do you hope to contribute? Do you want them to contribute? Do you need them to contribute right away?
Well, that's a good question, Joe. I think, the receivers probably, have a good chance because of what we lost and, we weren't as productive as we needed to be at that position last year. So they're both older. They both played junior college and then 4 years at Lehigh. So they're both older. So I think they'll have a chance. I think those offensive linemen, especially the ones that are here now, that'll be able to go through spring practice, and then a couple, those Will Gilchrist, an older guy, Dawson right up the road, because of being a tackle and our need for tackle, he may have a chance there. And then the guys, we lost both starting corners, so I think there's an opportunity for those guys to play. So those are probably the best chance. Linebacker maybe a little bit in there because of what we lost. So I would say those guys, Joe, have the best chance of contributing early.
Coach, you mentioned a couple of or at least one of the linemen there, offensive linemen. But, as you mentioned, Gilchrist is one of the older guys. Matt Martin is one of the older guys. Do you think those two might be poised to make an impact, even as early as next season?
Yeah, well, you hope so. You don't sign junior college guys to come sit on the bench, and that's our philosophy that, you sign a junior college guy, you expect him to come in and play. If you just want a junior college guy for depth, go sign a high school guy. So, those two, Matt will have a chance because he's here right now, being able to go through spring practice in our off-season program. So he'll have a chance there because he'll be a little bit ahead of the game. And then Will, because he's older, and then the high school guys, Marcus, all those guys, Jaleel, those guys are athletic guys. And, we sat here 4 years ago and, if you'd asked me if Chandler Brewer, would have played as a freshman, and I'd probably said probably not. He's going to have a hard time, but he ended up starting, so you never know. Chandler, obviously is a good player for us. So they'll all get a chance, and, you can't, you don't have a crystal ball to say it's going to be this guy or that guy. It could be anybody, could be none of them or it could be all of them, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Most of these guys had committed beforehand. You kind of knew that they wanted to sign here. One guy that didn't was Dawson Breck, who committed earlier today. Was it nice to just get that sixth lineman and kind of put that group over the top?
Yeah, I thought Coach Polly and Coach Mallory did a fantastic job of recruiting and getting those 5 guys that we signed in December. I thought we did a great job then. And then, probably going in, when we signed on the 20th, that was after the bowl game. So when we signed on the 20th, we were, in our mind, probably 80-90% done at the offensive line. I thought about it. We talked, do we need one more? Are we good there? We decided that if we can find a great one, if there's one out there, let's try to get him. And Coach Mallory had been recruiting Dawson all along, and and then we got on him there after the bowl game, and Coach Polly and Coach Mallory did a fantastic job recruiting. He's a really good player. He's got a great future ahead of him.
You've got a couple of guys in Gatelyn Casey and then Cordell Hudson. 1 year. What's kind of just the expectation when they're here for that 1 year, and that's what you're going to get out of them?
Well, you hope they play. You hope they play, and we've had decent success with grad transfers. Not great success, but we've had decent success. But I think both these guys, are what you're looking for from a character standpoint, from a work ethic standpoint, and they're talented enough. They've both played college football for 4 years, and here's 3 years. Here's a chance for them, to continue to play. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful they play. I hope they have great years and contribute. But I'm not ready to, crown them, right now as they're going to come in here and do this or that, because I don't know. I saw them, play at Syracuse and Lehigh, but we'll see what they can do when they get here.
One guy in the secondary that sticks out is Chris Stamps. A lot of talk about him just because he has, the Mississippi State pedigree, and obviously he's got the experience. Are you happy to have a guy of, with a reputation like him, skill set like him?
Yeah, we wouldn't have signed him if we didn't. But when I first met Chris and his family back in December, the 1st of December, I left there saying, I hope he's a good player because I love him. I think he's got a wonderful, wonderful attitude, personality. He's everything. He looks you in the eye. He smiles. All the intangibles that, make coaching a person enjoyable. And watching him here the 3 weeks we've been here now, or 4 weeks, whatever it's been, just how hard he works and how hard he competes at everything. I just think he's got a chance to really help us. And like I said, we lost both our starting corners from last year, and we need somebody to step up there. So I hope he does again, but he's got to get out there and do it on the field. So, but he's everything you want to coach, the intangible part.
Coach, you guys have signed 6 guys on the offensive line and 2 on the defensive line. How important was it, you guys, in your recruiting strategy this year to address the trenches?
Well, it was important, especially the offensive line, and that's what I addressed earlier. We're in good shape defensively inside. Probably in this class, we're probably a defensive end short. Probably would like to have signed a defensive end, and that's one of the positions that we'll look at here moving forward. But I think I know we made ourselves better in the offensive line. We signed one defensive tackle and one defensive end in this class. So I feel real good about where we are. I'd feel great if we could have signed another defensive end. But I think we're in good shape moving forward, from an offense and defensive line standpoint.
And you guys have also addressed at quarterback. You got two quarterbacks this class, Chance Noland and Luke Shiflett. Obviously, Brent heading into the last career, and obviously that's going to be a depleted after this year. So obviously adding that's important. What do you like about these two quarterbacks?
Well, I think the big thing is, they've both got good football IQ. They're smart players. They both throw the ball, well. Luke is probably a better, I don't want to say athlete, but better runner, than what Chance is. But Chance can run also. When you say that doesn't mean he can't run, but I'd say Luke is probably a little bit better runner than what he is. So I think they're both tough. I think they're both good competitors. And I think they, will have a chance to be really, really good players here. They're both good quarterbacks. They throw the ball well, and they got a good command from a leadership standpoint of their teams. They're both well respected in their high schools, and that's important to me.
This question is kind of out there, but your first game this year is at Vanderbilt. Do you follow who they've signed just to see, hey, we might have to worry about this or that, or do you worry about that after spring ball? And does that go for other teams in the conference as well? Kind of like, we'll worry about that once we get down that road.
I would say, Joe, I with Vanderbilt, I didn't follow them much because we weren't recruiting anybody that they were. They weren't recruiting anybody, So with them, I would say I worry about them, here this spring. But with the other schools in the conference, you do follow them. And I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to, and this is as bad as it sounds, to Southern Miss because we don't play them for a couple years. But the teams that we play, this year and the next year, the teams we play from the West are going to be different from the two. This year I followed them to see who they were signed. So I would say I was more in tune with what was going on in our conference as opposed to Vandy or Georgia or Kentucky.
Coach, last year I know you wanted to bring in some guys in the wide receiving core that had some size to them. This year you brought in two more guys. Was that another emphasis that you were looking for? You want to get some big guys. We got to get faster. I don't know if we did that, and that's just being honest with you. I think both of them run good. I think what's going to help, is Zach Dobson, coming in. He's not included, on this list, but, in our mind, he's kind of like a signee because he's just getting here, that he brings you some athleticism and speed there. But Devon and is a bigger body. Both of them are bigger bodies that, probably run good enough. I don't think they run great, but, they run good enough. And so we've got some size when you look at CJ and Jimmy and Zeke Cobb, when he gets back healthy, and Isaiah's got good size. So, we got some bigger guys. Now you throw those two in there. We've got pretty good size, where what we don't have is, the guy that can run by you, right now, and that's what we got to develop.
you kind of mentioned Luke Shiflett and how he kind of runs and stuff. Does he remind you of maybe a young Brent when he was at Siegel, how he kind of runs over people, or not maybe a run over people, but have a good run and get kind of fired up? Does he kind of remind you of a younger Brent?
You know, I've always had a hard time comparing people because, you know, it's really not fair. You know, but he's a good player. You know, he's tough. He's competitive. He's a good leader. You know, he can run around. He can throw the ball. So, you know, I've always tried to stay away from, you know, comparing guys because everybody's different and everybody's their own person. So, but he's a really good player.
Was the just sort of the approach or strategy different at all this year with, you know, having an early signing period? Was it more difficult? Was it easier, you know, just being able to scoop up some guys early? How did you sort of just navigate that change this year?
Well, you know, Eric, I think the big thing on that is it sped up your evaluation of kids that you wanted to sign in December. So it sped that process up where normally for us, December is still an evaluation period because December comes, you know, they all think they're going to, you know, the New England Patriots and the, you know, Tennessee Titans, you know. So when January gets here and they realize that all they were doing was getting a letter and, you know, that now they're more attracted to us. So it sped up the evaluation process. And like I said earlier, our coaches did a great job of doing that. You know, we had a guy that was committed to us, you know, for the last week. And, you know, Tennessee came in and offered him here this morning. So we lost him. So we got cherry picked on one. And normally in a course of a sign class, you're worried about two or three or four, you know, coming in and, you know, you losing those guys at the end. So I think that process, being able to sign them and lock them down in December was good. You know, like I said, we lost one where Tennessee came and took one from us this morning. You know, but I just think the whole recruiting process has sped up so much now, and it goes to underclassmen, you know, and especially this year when kids can start taking official visits in April, May, and June. I mean, it's really going to get fast.
One last guy I want to ask you about was Cordell Hudson. You know, obviously he's got that rapport with Schaefer. Just what do you think he brings, you know, as another guy with experience?
You know, he's got experience. He's played, you know, in the ACC. He's mature. He's here now. You know, I like his attitude. He's, you know, like I say, he works hard. Again, you know, I think he can be a good player for us. You know, but we'll find out. You know, just because you played at Syracuse or Mississippi State or wherever doesn't mean you're automatically going to come in here and be a star. You got to prove it and you got to earn it. And but I like his attitude, and you know, we'll get out there and see what he can do this spring.
Coach, there's a lot of talent in the Rutherford County area, and you got Jarrett Campbell from Riverdale. How important is it to lock in on some of the talent that you have here locally?
Well, I think it's important. There's a lot of Rutherford County, this area, the Middle Tennessee, Nashville area. There's a lot of really, really good coaches, high school coaches, that do a fantastic job. The Rutherford County people, you know, these players here are getting coached by good people, by good coaches, and you know, it's important, and you know, and I've always said it. We're always going to start in Tennessee first. You know, and if we can't find what we need in Tennessee, then we'll move, you know, out to Georgia, Florida, Alabama, the junior college ranks or whatever. So this is where we'll always start, but there's a lot of good players, you know, because this area is booming. It's, you know, there's so many people moving, you know, here to the Nashville, Murfreesboro area, you know, that bringing in families and good players. But I think a lot of the credit, you know, goes to the players, but
these coaches here in town in this area do a fantastic job.
During the recruiting process, how much is Kevin Byard brought up to these young men?
You know, it was brought up a lot, especially, Joe, with the DBs that we were recruiting. But in general, you know, all of them. I talked about KB, and I talked about, you know, Eric Walden and Benny Cunningham, and, you know, all our guys, Sammy Seamster, who's with Jaguars still. You know, all those guys, former players that have played here that are in the NFL, and just, you know, hey, you can accomplish your goals and dreams. You can get to where you want to go just as easy from Middle Tennessee as you can to, you know, from any other school. And, you know, for KB to play in the Pro Bowl, you know, when that was played, you know, the last week of January there, you know, with the heat of recruiting, you know, we're telling guys, you know, that we're recruiting, you know, who he is and what he's done and what he means to us.
I guess the other question is, what happened to the beard?
I learned how to, you know, I never had a beard. I learned how to cut it better. You know, Sarah got me some clippers there for Christmas, and I learned how to cut it better instead of letting it get too long. So that's, you know, I think.
Middle Tennessee, our town, our team.